So hi everyone and welcome to You Are My Boro with myself, Scott Wilson and Dom Shaw. We're recording this a couple of days before Christmas, so we're very much in the festive spirit. Hope you are, especially if you made the long trip down to Plymouth at the weekend. Goodness me, what a trek before Christmas. Now we may try and squeeze a vid in the kind of post-Christmas, pre-New Year period, but obviously there's a load of matches, a load of pressers. So we are going to make this our look back at 2024 vid. We'll have a chat about the year that was. We'll pick out a few highlights, a few lowlights, and we'll look forward to the future. Couple of little bits of housekeeping before we start. Massive thank you to all of you for watching us this year and listening to our inane witterings about all things Boro. It's massively appreciated. The numbers have been absolutely great. If you do watch on the video, then please subscribe and like and give us a comment. It massively helps. If you listen on a podcast, rate and review. But just massively thanks. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for reading our Boro stuff on the Northern Echo website. It does make a massive difference to us, and it's great having the interaction.
We had a viewer, and afterwards I thought, I wish I'd have asked his name. We went to watch Shed 7, didn't we?
We did.
In Stockton a couple of weeks ago, and we had a happy viewer, definitely. Complimentary.
He was a happy viewer, yeah.
Coming up to us afterwards and saying,
absolutely. Yeah, so whoever you were, have a Shed 7-tastic Christmas. It was a good gig. It was a good gig. Right, 2024, Dom. Boro. Where do we start with 2024 with Boro? Now, let's start with last year. I'm just looking here. Last New Year's Day, Boro lost 3-1 to Coventry. That left them 12th in the table.
No, a home defeat to Coventry. What better way to start the year?
Exactly. Starts you mean to go on.
Yeah.
Position-wise, Boro are better off at the minute. Obviously, they're not necessarily going to be on January the 1st, but you'd like to think they will be. Has this been a good year for Boro, though? Have they moved forward over the course of the last 12 months, do you think?
I think they have moved. I think without doubt they've moved forward. I think the question is, have they moved forward as much as they should have done, really?
Yeah.
I think Carrick's got all the tools to really move forward now. You will get to that and the aims and where Boro stand. I think what's such a strange position is that we're recording this, as you say, a couple of days before Christmas, and you might have better things to do over Christmas Eve and Christmas Day than listen or watch this. So you might not get round to watching this until after the Sheffield Wednesday game on Boxing Day or even the Burnley game. And like, it's probably the industry we're in, but also I think the position Boro are in, that depending on how the next two games go, if Boro win the next two games, they're going to be firmly in position in the top 6 and looking up, aren't they? There's clearly still going to be a gap there, but looking up clearly. If Boro don't get positive results in the next two games, let's hope it doesn't come to that. But if they don't get positive results, if there's a disastrous couple of results in the next two games, then clearly the league table isn't going to look pretty at all. And you'd say that Boro are underachieving given the squad they've got. Now, I know that's a bonkers place to be in. That's not me sitting on the fence. I genuinely, I think Boro's season really is right on the knife edge. I think Boro now are about, and this isn't necessarily a criticism, about as low as they should be with this squad. I said at the start of the season, and I stand by it, I think this squad should be challenging not just for a top 6 place this season, automatic promotion. I think Boro are good enough to challenge for automatic promotion. They're as good as Burnley. We saw that when we were at Turf Moor a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure they're as good as Leeds. We saw that when we were at Ellen Road, but I think they definitely should be challenging for automatic promotion. They're clearly paying the price again for a slow start, aren't they? Not as slow as last season, but not as positive as they'd have hoped. The hope, like the last two seasons, is we see the best of Boro in the second half from January, February onwards.
Let's, rather than kind of go through it calendar-wise, because, you know, we don't really want to dwell, I guess, too much on last season and stuff. Let's look at positives and negatives. So in the last 12 months, what are, in your opinion, the big positives at Boro or that Boro have experienced? I think if you sat down with Michael Carrick, and you're going to his presser, the pre-Boxing Day presser soon, so you might well do this. I suspect Michael Carrick would say, in his opinion, the big positive is that he feels he's got a much better squad now than at any other time as Boro manager. Much deeper, much more quality, 2 players for every position, which is what he's wanted. A, do you agree with that? And B, is that the big positive from the last 12 months? That actually, if you look at Boro's squad now, it is better than the one that went into 2024.
Yeah, so I was going to say, and I think it taps in that. I think the big positive of 2024 has been transfers and recruitment, and which leads into the fact that, yes, Carrick does have such a strong squad now. If we'd have sat here 12 months ago and said, Morgan Rogers is going to leave for Aston Villa for 10, 15 million quid, whatever it ends up being, next month, and Emmanuel Latte Lath is going to be the Championship's best striker in the second half of the season, and have Premier League clubs bidding £20 million for him. What would the reaction have been in the comments?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have read the comments. That seemed so far beyond possible at that stage that it wasn't something we'd even have discussed. But I think really a couple of things. The Rodgers deal clearly is worth an awful lot more now than what Villa paid for him. I don't think there's many better attacking players. I watched him in that Man City game on Saturday. I don't think there's many better attackers in the Premier League. But that was a good deal for Boro at the time. Absolutely, undoubtedly.
I think any Boro fans who bang the drum and say Boro should have held out. It was obvious he was going to be this player. It was obvious he was going to be worth more. They should have. That's revisionism. Morgan Rogers in the first half of last season, when he left the Villa, I honestly thought, well, there's every chance Boro will get him back on loan because he's got a cat and else chance of getting into my Emery's team.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to watch our video back from January last year because we'd have been speaking more nonsense than normal. Yeah. But I think so the Rodgers deal, I think, clearly making such a big profit on a player is 6 months is success. But the thing that's been put to me on several occasions since, and I think the success of the summer model and signing players like Ben Doak on loan, Micah Hamilton, I know it hasn't gone to plan so far, but still he's a player who was playing for Man City in the Champions League last year. One of the things is the Premier League pathway. We've shown there's a pathway to the Premier League. We've shown how, with coaching, how quickly we can improve players like Rodgers. But then also we won't stand in the way when an opportunity arises. Latte Lath's different because it's your best striker and it's 10 hours before the transfer deadline. So that's a different scenario altogether, isn't it, in the summer? But I think Boro's model and recruitment and how efficient and with no fuss they managed to get through the summer transfer window to put the squad in place that's there now. And there's still areas that you'd say need improving in the Boro squad because of the way the first half of the season's played out. But there's a real balance and there's depth across the pitch, isn't there? And the scoring goals now. I think that has to be the big positive of the year. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I do think that the Boro squad now, as you rightly said, has the feel of a squad that should, at the very, very minimum, be in the playoffs. It's a promotion challenging squad. You've got Conway and Latte Lath, two of the best strikers in the league. You've got Ben Doak, a player who any championship team would want and would covet, and that everybody's been raving about in the last couple of months on international performances and all of that. You've got multiple choices at centre half, as we've seen, who are all capable of going in and doing a job. You've got Hayden Hackney there, who's developing the through. This doesn't feel like a squad that's massively short in any area, and I think we've seen that from the way that Boro have been able to cope with injuries and things in the first half of the season. At no point has it felt like Michael Carrick has had to be putting square pegs in round holes because the players just haven't been there. This is a really deep squad. So I guess then, does that then flip us to, if there is, the negative, if you like, of the last 12 months? Is it that actually results probably haven't adequately reflected maybe just how good this squad is? And I know we're doing this off the back of the Plymouth game, so there's probably going to be a bit of recency bias here. But in the games that have got away from Boro this season, it's kind of the same old problems. It's long-standing issues that currently feel like they remain unresolved. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think that the frustration is twofold and tapped into them both there. Firstly, that Boro are being let down by the same issues really again and again. have they got a bit of a soft underbelly? You know, how do they keep throwing points away from winning positions? Those questions that have come up. But I think the other frustration is we've seen how good Boro can be.
Yeah.
And that like that's why I'm saying I think Boro are as good as Burnley, and I think Boro should be challenging for automatic promotion. We've seen Boro blow teams away. We've seen them score, was it 15 goals in those 3 games? And it still feels, I think, as we approach the midway point of the season, that we're waiting for Boro to really, really hit the stride. There were signs of it, wasn't there? Then good draw at Burnley, but the Leeds disappointment, and then a win and a draw since, when that Plymouth game had the look of being one really that you wanted to go and win. It still feels like this Boro team need to win. Clearly, the league table tells us they need to go and win 4 or 5 on the bounce, don't they? And really,
and that's
really
what they did that. They did that in a little flurry at the back end of last season. They still haven't really done that this season, have they? And as you rightly say, that 4 or 5 game run that catapults you up the league, and from where Boro are at the minute, turns you into absolutely nailed on, in the heart of the playoffs, maybe start to look at the top 2. Haven't quite had that yet, have we?
No, and I'm reading what Wayne Rooney was saying after the game on Saturday, and we're not going into specifics of games here, but what Rooney said, you can basically copy and paste from several managers this year. Good squad, well coached, players that would get into any team. We knew they'd be challenging. They'll be in the mix come the end of the season. We've heard it all before, haven't we? Early in the season, we were hearing that from opposition managers when Boro weren't getting results, and that was frustrating because it just kind of hit home as to what Boro should be doing. They've got there, haven't they? They've definitely improved.
Yeah.
But like you said there, it's just the same issues really that keep costing them. And how do you fix that if they haven't been fixed already? How do you fix that?
Yeah.
Does Carrick look to fix that, or does he just work on, as daft it sounds, like further improving the strengths and playing the strengths? Yeah. Clearly, he's going to work on the weaknesses, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know where you're coming from. Yeah. So, when we talk about strengths and players who have had a really good 12 months, then clearly the top end of the pitch is probably where we're focusing, isn't it? Because, as you say, Latte Lath was absolutely superb in the second half of last season. Attacking wise, Boro were really, really good in most of the second half of last season. We've seen flashes of it this year. Latte Lath has had some excellent performances. Conway has had really good games when he's been in at times. We've touched on Dork and the kind of massive impact he's made. They've been an exciting watch for most of the year, Boro, haven't they? They've looked an attacking threat. That hasn't really been a problem at any stage.
No, other than the start of this season when it felt like they were a bit too laboured and predictable in attack. But that's in the past now, isn't it? You don't go into games now worrying that Boro aren't going to score.
Create chances, yeah.
I think you've got, if you look back at the year as a whole, it was January when Azaz signed, and it took a bit of time for him to settle in, obviously. But we've touched on it a few times on these videos, haven't we, in the recent months? That he's the player who makes Boro tick, who kind of everything else happens around, really. We've seen when he's not there, which is a rarity, when he's not there, just how much he's missed. He's probably the only natural number 10, maybe Gilbert, but we haven't seen enough of him, have we? So I think Azaz, who would you say has been the best signing of the year? I mean, you could easily make a case for Azaz, but I think Morris as well, and Dork, clearly. Dork, Azaz, Morris are the 3 who spring to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think Morris could end up being, but I think because he got that injury, and I haven't said that, I think probably in the Plymouth game, more than any other, we saw what Boro miss with Morris, just that degree of control and
snap as well, I think, at least.
Yeah, exactly, being able to run a game from midfield. I think you'd have to say Azaz, because over the course of the full 12 months, he's grown and developed, and he's shown how important he is. Dork is clearly the most talented. This feels really harsh. It probably is a bit harsh. In the last what, 2 or 3 weeks, have we seen a little bit of a dip from that kind of
Yeah,
stellar
I think
2 or
that's
3
fair,
weeks he
yeah,
had? The
absolutely.
QPR game, obviously, he looked an absolute world beater. He hasn't quite been able to maintain those levels. He will clearly be a massively important player for Boro in the second half of the season, as will Morris. But I think over the course of the 12 months, you'd probably see Azaz.
What would you say has been the disappointment of the year? And I'll go first to give you time to think about it
Yeah.
if you want. I think I'd go back to that Chelsea semi-final. It sounds ridiculous because it's Chelsea and you're going away to Chelsea and losing to Chelsea is absolutely no shame, clearly. But it's obviously not the Chelsea of now. And I think we'd all talked ourselves into going there
Yeah.
with hope. It was the manner of it, wasn't it, really, more than anything, I think. So not like disappointing as in critically, just feeling flat afterwards and how it all fell flat.
Yeah. No, I think that's really fair because obviously the first leg was such a great occasion. You know, it was one of the great Riverside games, wasn't it? And you know, a great night. They're bang in there, and you think, oh, what a massive chance. And I think I vividly remember the vid we did before, and I think we both said the one thing that will not happen is just Boro getting completely blown away and just
which we reminded ourselves of after half an hour, I think.
Yeah. And clearly that is absolutely what happened.
I really fancied, but honestly, I fancied Boro going there. I
did. I really did. Other disappointments of the year. I think for me, the number of injuries is a disappointment, and I'm not pointing fingers here at things because it's easy when teams, you know, clubs get injuries or whatever that you know is something wrong with this. Is something? No, I just, you know, I don't buy into that. But someone like, say, Vandenberg, who is clearly a top class defender, could quite easily be the best defender in the Championship. And yet it just feels like it's been a bitty year for him because he's had a run here and he's been great. And then he's dropped out of the team. He's had injury. Then he's back and he looks great. Then he's injured again and Boro are shuffling around it. And it just feels a little bit like it's been like that in a number of areas for Boro this season. I think Vandenberg's the one that stands out the most. But, you know, at various points we've been talking about, you know, where are these players? I mean, Darragh Lenihan, what's happened there? Dale Fry was out for 10 months when it felt like it was an innocuous thing at the start, and yet it turned into a 10-month injury. And, you know, and I'm absolutely not pointing the fingers at anyone at Boro here because Fry's, you know, you talk to Dale Fry and it becomes clear just how problematic his injury was and how one thing was related to another. And it, you know, it was a really difficult thing to get the bottom of. Feels like there's been a few of them with Boro all through the year. And at various points, it's kind of stopped any kind of a rhythm.
Yeah, we recorded last Wednesday just before I went to the Riverside, didn't I, to speak to Michael Carrick and the players there. It was the Christmas parties, and we sat down with Dale and talked to Dale, and he was great. He always is, isn't he? Because he's just him, isn't he? Absolutely, like no different to if you're still having a chat with him and then you put the microphone there, nothing changes, does it? No. As it often does. But he was talking about the injuries and how difficult that spell out of the team was and how nervous he was coming back after such a long time out. Never really gets nervous, but that night before that first game back, getting. I mean, if you have Fry and Vandenberg fit all season at centre half, then I don't think there's a better centre half pairing in the Championship. No. What about moment of the year? I know we go back to that Chelsea game. But I mean,
you've mentioned it. You know, Hackney getting the winner, hometown lad. It was a brilliant atmosphere that night. I think it's hard to look past that for the moment of the year because, you know, I mean, let's be honest, that was Boro beating them. All right, like you say, Chelsea probably weren't then what they are now, but they were still beating one of the Premier League big boys in a cup semi-final. It felt absolutely massive, and you know, but we all know kind of how the second leg went. But I still think that was the moment, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was for me, I think. I mean, yeah, like
I think the best game for all that it went against Boro was that Leeds game at the end of last season.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it wasn't the best game clearly from a Boro perspective, but just for a crazy, entertaining, madcap game of football, that was, you know, wild, really.
And what do you think then? You know, if 12 months down the line, we're recording, looking back on 2025, what's been a successful year for Boro? Because it felt like coming in, promotion was clearly the aim. Clearly, there's a way to not. It might sound ridiculous. There's a way to not going up if you're not going to go up. You know what I mean? But to not go up with this squad, it'd still be a real disappointment.
I think if Boro do not win promotion this season, then it will be impossible to portray the season as a success.
100%.
You know, for all that players might have developed and they might narrowly miss out, whatever, you know, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. We've talked about the quality in the squad. We've talked about the depth in the squad. Carrick's talked about it repeatedly. So for them to not go up, now, like you say, if Boro end up in the playoffs, you know, you can have a massive refereeing call go against you in the first leg of the game and put you out of it, or you can get to Wembley and yet lose on penalties or something, you know, yeah, fine. But if Boro are not a Premier League club come August, then I think the season will, if branding it a failure is a little bit harsh, then it certainly hasn't been a success, has it? And obviously, it's hard to look beyond that, because what happens in terms of whether Boro win promotion or not completely colours everything that happens in the summer. Can you hold on to Latte Lath? Can you hold on to a Hackney or a Vandenberg if clubs come in for them? Well, you know, if Boro finish 8th or if Boro lose a playoff semi-final, then it's really hard, I think, for them to be able to keep this squad together. And so everything that happens after May is contingent on that. But certainly between now and May, it's got to be promotion, hasn't it? I don't think you can skirt around that. I don't think you can fluff it up or anything. I think this Boro side has to win promotion for this season to be a success. Do you think that?
Absolutely, yeah. Because of everything really that we said at the start of the season, I think still rings true. The squad, the depth and the quality of the squad, and the league. Like, yeah, Sheffield United have got a gap now, but Boro beaten Sheffield United. If Boro played Sheffield United on any day, if Boro played Sheffield United 10 times, then they might win 5 each. I don't think. The point is, I don't think there's a real gulf between them.
No.
I know. Obviously, Boro were beaten at Leeds, but I thought Boro were really poor that night, especially in the first half. So that didn't feel like a fair reflection. They've drawn at Burnley, they've lost at Sunderland, but again, they were below par that day. And it goes back to what we've said in recent videos. Sunderland keep finding a way to get results in games, whereas Boro haven't really
find a way to throw a result away. Yeah,
but yeah. So I think the point stands that we felt at the start of the season, this isn't as strong a league as what it has been in the past, and because of that, there's an opportunity. The stars align, really. You've got the strongest squad you've had in a number of years, and the other teams aren't a squad. There's no standout champions. There's no standout promotion winners. Clearly, the challenge for Boro now is they've given themselves a job to do again. They're playing catch up again. We can only hope that, like the last 2 seasons, because last year clearly wasn't as dramatic as an improvement as the year before, but Boro found the feet and finished the season as one of the form teams in the division, didn't they? It was too late by that point. The pressure was off as well. Clearly, this time the pressure is going to be on, and you need to find that run of results when there's a need to do it. But that has to be the hope, and it has to be the requirement as well, doesn't it?
And just lastly, and you know, again, I don't want this to sound overly harsh, really. Is that going to be a verdict on Carrick as well? Because if we grade Michael Carrick's 12 months, then it's hard to do it really until you see where they end up. But you know, Carrick quite rightly has had a massive amount of praise for an awful lot that he's done during his time at Boro, and I absolutely still think that stands. You know, he's clearly a really talented head coach who's going places. But if he can't get this Boro team up again this season, then you know that's not a success for him either, is it?
No, it's not. I think you'd say that there's been improvement. Obviously, last year there wasn't an improvement on the year before, but Boro improved as the season went on, and it was a new team. You can't really compare last year to the year before, can you? Because it's 2 completely different teams. This year, Boro have a better squad and they're a better team again. But Carrick will say it all the time, when you judge us at the end of the season, the table tells the story at the end of the season. Well, that's the case for the players, the team, and the head coach. And the aim this year is promotion. Everybody's made that clear, haven't they? So I think Carrick can absolutely agree that if they don't go up, it hasn't been a success. Whether you'd say it's been a failure or not, I think depends on how Boro finish. If Boro finish 8th, that's a failure. If Boro finish 3rd and are edged out in a a real tight playoff final, well, it's clearly not a success. But is it a failure?
But it's not a failure. No, I think that's absolutely fair. Yeah.
But yeah, success is only promotion this year. I think finishing 3rd and not going up isn't success, is it? It's improvement, it's progression, but it's not success, because the aim is promotion.
Yeah. And there we are then. Let's wrap up. Let's hope that we're having this video again in December 2025. Boro have just been to Old Trafford, played Man United off the park. They're sat in about 6th, and we're saying, well.
Michael Carrick last night refused to be drawn on suggestions he's going to replace Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, but about the 6th Man United manager.
Yeah, I was going to say it wouldn't be replacing Amorim, would it?
I don't think so. Right, well, that seems like a good place to wrap up. So all that's left for us to say is have a fantastic Christmas, have a brilliant New Year. As I say, keep an eye on our socials, because we may well try and squeeze a video in between Christmas and New Year, kind of maybe wrapping up the Boxing Day game, looking ahead. But obviously with games, press conferences, copious amounts of turkey eating, we might struggle to squeeze that in. If we don't, have a great time. If we do, then hopefully we'll see you for that. But all that's left for us to say is thanks for all your support this year. Thanks for watching. Keep in contact with us. We do love hearing from you. We really do. Even if it is in the stairwell after a Shed 7 gig, by all means, keep that going. And we'll see you again for some more You Are My Boro.